Well, hello everyone. You're welcome back to the Gold Monument 20. And talk about right here, if anybody warrants this tour, if there was going to be what you call, for sequel 20 and activity though, for 20 though. But you see right here is that I went ahead and add in right here, or like would say like this was right here was be like like anything for like anything such as in the paper or catalogs. I can remember that when I was very young, this tour that. They had like a at the house for with where I used to live that they there was like my parents would have like a magazine, like a book rack, inside in the living room area. And I can remember that there was like maybe a few books and catalogs or so that you'll be able to read through. And that a lot of the catalogs or so would be printed, something like this right here, maybe just like a little bold print right here. And then like you'll be able to read it, and if there was anything such as job offers right here. But you see right here is one thing I did want to talk about was so far as making ourselves useful to any of the work that we may be known about, be aware of. And that's just a thing though, is like for any students that knowing about after they graduate and knowing about looking for work especially. But I have right here for that the students, it's like they have a as a student, to put their goals forward, and then to help the businesses and companies understand more for what they they do best. And it's like for looking forward for the better future for any day like a birthday. The question goes, what do clients think of my work, and then how do they find my work? Interesting. How do they find my work? And then the gold monument is a monument that shows like for the work that makes it useful to others. To show what is still useful, required as of needed. And I included right here. This right here will be example right here of a math problem. So if anybody warrants this tour using no calculators, and I know that sometimes it seems like I don't have much luck, doing and configuring some of these math problems without a calculator, so I can't guarantee that the answer is going to be correct, but I have right here for 1,789. So if anybody warrants this tour, that yeah, that you're doing it, the work in the math. But on the other hand, for anything that I could be working on and talk about is toward it, yeah, whenever you first start working on something, sometimes that people want to ask that question is toward it, how come that some source of information that was not included? And or something that's maybe missing or something like that. And so that's just the thing, though. Is like think about the gold monument here. Is from me, for my first birthday. I also want to show people here about the new laptop that I had gotten. And with this new laptop, I used some of the Photoshop work right here just to show the laptop. But with this new laptop of mine, and I remember I wanted one since I was very young too. And anybody want with that toy that you had whenever you were very young? And I'm like, yeah, that I want to go and include this picture right here, because this picture would have been taken as of early of 1985. And with that picture right here, like I talked about from Gold Monument 2, I think it was Gold Monument 1 and 2 that all through Gold Monument 7. I'm sure most of us who've seen the Gold Monument from previous sequel activities that talking about the toys and activities and stuff that we want to do on our birthdays. But here we are. It's already close to October the 30th, and of course my birthday is already passed. But I just I want to also talk about is to where that for the gold monument is toward it for being a student as well. So. And I can tell anybody here that for the 8 years or 10 years that I've been in school from a few years ago that usually that on my birthday that they'll be around summer break. And so just think about it as to where if you're going to still be in school even on your birthday, or maybe if a special occasion or special moment that happens right around your birthday, you can celebrate. And so a lot of what I'm doing right here is basically just talking about for the future. So if anybody warns this tour, that yeah, a lot of the work based on from back in 2014, that the year 2014 seemed like it was a long ways away, but it was like 2 years ago already. And so if anybody warns this tour, that yeah, that you have right here is like a pictures right here for the laptop, and you have right here's me right here. If I were to be what you call be playing one of those toys that I had gotten, but still that you'll have my own laptop, and I can remember that whenever I was very young, that seems like that anything like that at the time, that how expensive it was, and thinking about it to where that by the time you would turn at least maybe 25 or maybe 30 or so, or maybe by the time you're 15 or so, you'll be able to get one. Like parents will be able to get one for you. You'll be able to save up for one or so, but or maybe that the company or business would be able to provide the students with one. So if anybody warrants us toward any laptop computers that they would have gotten, and think it is toward it, that whenever they start working a job, and then they the business that provides a computer for them, and maybe not all businesses would maybe do that, but like I think I talked about from Gold Monument 4, was that that you talked about for what the company would provide, for their coworker, for the business coworker, if you're going to be doing any work for any clients, or if it's anything like freelance work or anything like that, any source of work that you could be doing for the company, and they may say that yeah, that you'll go ahead and pay for it, and then we'll go ahead and provide this or that, but still, but talk about for the gold monument though, is that if anybody, like I explained before, is that really just think about the things that have already been paid for, not really about for if anybody warrants us to where whenever you're a student, the purpose about gold monument is to where to think about the things that are paid for. And that seemed like a long ways away. I'm like, if anybody warrants us to where, yeah, that a lot of stuff talk about the license and what to make yourself useful. Whenever anybody says to make yourself useful, and I include this right here with the fireworks, and yeah, right here's the warning labels, and so what are warning labels basically based toward it? Whenever you buy something, if it's going to be fireworks, fireworks safety. And I was also thinking about that. I had another, picture. Of course, I used Photoshop work, but I kept thinking that the other file that I was working on illustration was getting full on memory, and so I decided to just go ahead and do some more Dreamweaver work. So if anybody warrants the store, yeah, that if you've seen that a number of times. For like say the twice the amount, and as well as for for interviews. So I just want to kind of what you call redo the project here, and just mainly talk about a few other things that I did not mention from the gold monument 7 as well for 18 and 19. But on the other hand, that really, that if anybody warrants this tour, if you had to have a license just to buy fireworks, and knowing about that type of a license, like say that, yeah, that from where you can maybe from where you can have them, and where you can shoot them off, and as well as that for how you celebrate also. But and I know that if anybody warrants this tour, that for Gold Monument, I'm just talking about right here for the Gold Monument 20 is with anything related to fireworks, because that I know that you'll probably by 4th of July of 2017 and 4th of July 2018, that some may of us will probably say that like to see some of your illustration and Photoshop work for any of the warning labels, so to where that tell younger kids that fireworks are fun, but then they can be dangerous also. So just think about it, that have right here with the fireworks, and they have right here the Statue of Liberty right here. When I went to the fireworks stand, I can remember that they seen the Statue of Liberty, and I thought that looked pretty neat right there. And really that do really, I'm like, does anybody would probably think is to, are you going to be reimbursed by the Department of Treasury for whenever you buy fireworks, and especially that if it's for what you call something for new job or something like that. But really that whenever you buy fireworks, that say is to celebrate safely also is toward it. Yeah, that back whenever you were a kid, that like ways of how to celebrate that besides on the birthday cake. But still, the birthday cake that tasted pretty good, and it's like you enjoyed the time in the birthday cards. But really, that if anybody warns us toward any jobs, it's like for any such as anything about making yourself useful, especially. One of these things about making yourself useful would be is toward it that I include right here is the CSS file. And with the CSS file that I went and include right here, like I say for brainstorming, which I know that whenever I was working this, which I know I started from a blank template, from a blank page. I guess there's a template that you can use on Adobe Dreamweaver, but this right here, that I know if I don't even think it really even makes no sense. So if anybody were to say that, especially on their birthday, if they would have gotten maybe a program that they want to use, like something to start out with, and one of those would be toward it. Yeah, that maybe if you on your birthday, if you would got maybe a program, it would have been what you call just a free edition, or maybe a 4.1 or so edition of Dreamweaver or so. And just think about if you would have maybe gotten some practice. If you would have got maybe like a starter's program, to be used on a computer, and on any time, if it's a computer or Mac, and then you're like wanting to, okay, what's this? But I put together right here, this right here, would just to kind of get ourselves an idea, because I know that more likely it's not, because I could probably say that, yeah, I mentioned before, to where I can really, if anything, I can maybe spend all day just trying to, spend some time trying to figure this out, and like, yeah, for like putting together a website especially, and putting together a resume or a portfolio. But really, just to kind of get some ideas, and if anybody warrants us toward it, a few images that I have used from Gold Monument 7 and 8, that most of us have seen that already, that, if you want to go back and look at the previous postings that I have posted up, is toward it, I talk about that in knowing anything about activity books. But for Gold Monument 20 here, is I'm working right here with like this right here with the CSS, and one thing about for Dreamweaver, and so that's just a thing with for like activity 1 right here. I put right here for activity 1. So if we will be looking at this right here, and then have right here for Gold Monument, and I can include right here for Gold Monument 20. So this was right here would be, I guess, if you want to call it the activity sequel. But anyway, for activity sequel, and I include right here for image source, for image source. So let's just say that if any designer were to have a certain type of image that they want to use, and then say what do you want to do with it, or if you want to go ahead and do some editing in Photoshop or anything like that. And so this CSS right here, the way I created this is almost like it's like kind of like a checklist. If we want to look like an agenda list, to where the activity 1, and I didn't spend a whole lot of time really gathering a whole lot of information on this. So if anybody warrants us to where, it looks pretty confusing, but still, that this was right here was example of some of my work right here. And I have right here is the mathematical discovery, the multiplication table. They have right here for 44 times 4, and 44 minus 4, and 44 plus 4. So most of us have seen, I think it was from the Gold Monument 8, that I was talking about the math calculations, and about for 4. It's like that's for like gold dollar, that for the Department of Treasury. But with this work right here putting on for Dreamweaver, though, that we may want to where a lot of the measurements and the calculations, that if this was right here, which it may start out with like just something to kind of build your ideas, just kind of brainstorm ideas over. It's not really anything about what you call right or wrong way of how you do it, but still that sometimes if anybody that may say that they see the work, and then they may say that you didn't do it right, but still that I guess it's all about is toward just kind of getting an idea about something. But really that I would maybe recommend is toward it, yeah, if anybody were to say that to spend about 2 hours working on something, and just to kind of develop some ideas before you go any further, that knowing about what template that you need to use just to be able to create a site. But like I said before, I talk about for like anything about websites, though, that if anybody wants us to, or on their birthday, maybe if they dream about having a website to where that they can maybe teach others about, this is how I learned how to do this or that, or anything about which site for like any stickers and any activity books that you may have gotten whenever you were young, and you learned by stickers. But this right here would be like, say, for activity 1 and activity 1. So I just copied and pasted a couple of these right here, and create like an agenda list right here as to where action 1, action 2, calculate, and then action 3, develop, action 4, progress, and then action 5 will be per project. So let's just say that action 1 would be used to where if you were to collect a number of ideas, maybe over 1 million ideas, and then action 2 would be used for calculating about what you want to do. Okay, have you made your decision about what you want to use? And then for action 3 was to say that okay, what do you want to go ahead and use an additional program or anything that could be edited, and anything such as any tools that are used, especially in action 4, for progress, and then for action 5 for project. So, and I know that this seems pretty simple just to be able to do this, but I can tell anybody here, to be honest with anybody, that I would probably say that it takes, this right here, a project for what I'm talking about right here for the gold monument can take maybe up to 4 weeks to put together, depending on what goes on. But still, that I could probably say on averages to where maybe a week, maybe a full 4 days, or maybe a week or something like that. They would take, and if anybody say they have access to it at home, but still, that for anything about digital professional license, if most of us can see this right here, is that whenever you earn your license, you're just for the 5 years or so of being a designer, but talk about right here for 20 though, that get my own laptop, and then it's like warrant toward it. Yeah, that especially if you're going to be in your bedroom, and warrant toward it, you get a laptop, and you have actually you're able to budget, do your budgeting online, with from the laptop. But still, that at the time, if anybody warrants this toward that, what could be included in the birthday cake, especially. So this right here, that would be example right here of me whenever I was about, only about maybe a year old, and at the time it'd be, I say, do you remember that? Whenever you were only about maybe 1 or 2 years old, that you would be playing around with it, like any tents that you used to have, tents, or maybe activity books or Lincoln Log sets, Lego sets that you may have had back whenever you were young. Think about the toys that you had, but then think about it to where on a laptop that you would maybe have a few games that you could play with on there. But just think about it, for what could be able to make yourself useful. If anybody wants this tour, what does it usually mean to make yourself useful for anything that you're doing necessarily? And for like say, okay, Matthew S. McGuire, that Matthew Sean McGuire, that please make yourself useful for anything that you're doing. So if anybody wants to, besides the 4th of July, that for professional accounts, even if you're not 100% sure of any ideas that are going to work at the time, just think about it to where by July 18th of 2018 through July of the year 2023, in the near future, is to where that anything that you could be working on is to where that we may develop ideas, and we may think that, oh, okay, that's a horrible idea, or that's not such a good idea, or that's an alright idea. But still, talk about for the gold monument here is to where it seems like to where how far do we think that we'll be able to get in progress? And we may think that maybe not all what we do is going to be any good, because if anybody warrants us toward it, anything what you call for maybe anything that we call is to where that well, it's you kept it secretly just because you didn't think anybody was interested in really in reading about it necessarily. So if you were working on something, and have right here people that may find that your work maybe on a tablet or maybe on a mobile site, and they want to know more information about it. But still, for the next 50 years or so of understanding about the principle of being a designer, the gold monument is a way of saying is that thanks for the hard work of the student of the years of completed. So this right here of course, would not even be example of work that, of course, that I worked on while I was in class, but still that doing any other work that I was, and I know I posted that up earlier, on YouTube, but still that that I on my Behance, on Behance as well as on LinkedIn, but still that but with this HTML work right here. And I know that if anybody wants is toward the map of the world, well, but still, that I had included that within the 4 activities that I posted up earlier about the gold monument. So I'm sure most of us here probably want to see some new activity about each activity sequel I do, but just to let anybody know that yeah, that anything about dream work, but you have right here are some of these files right here that I have right here for like pixels, like I talked about for the little brother careers. So some of them that were even copied to a new destination, a new file location on my computer here. So if we're like warrant toward it, that the files are just like, for what does this mean right here? And if I can make this a little bit bigger so we can it's like see right here. But really that I don't know if anybody's can see this right here, but there right there you have right here for height and 800, and then for the width and then the height right here for 600 or so. It's like that's for peaking up its pixels, but still that you change the settings on there. But really, that if I can remember right, that there is a way to do that on the CSS document. It's like if you want to be placed properly and within the wireframe, and it's like for anything about the light box and any pictures that you want to place, especially. So if anybody warns us toward it, yeah, anything about Dreamweaver or any other program that you're familiar with, that you would really want to say that other people would like to look at some examples, and at the time it's like warrant to well, more likely I'll be able to explain more at the conference meeting. They say, yeah, you're going to go to a meeting, maybe you'll be able to explain more about what you do, but still, at the time, you're like warrant or anything new that really that if it requires more time or if it requires a tour, you just really had to talk to a professional, talk to the person who is working, doing the work, but still that who is actually performing that source of task. But make yourself useful for what that's going on, even if you're not sure. But still, that this right here will be some of my HTML work right here I put together for the site right here for the Gold Monument. And I know that if anybody will warrant toward it, yeah, that anything about, I was also thinking about too, between live right here, this right here would be, I think, yeah, that it's a project that since I updated this, and I was like wondering to where, yeah, the Gold Monument. Whenever I was looking at my tax forms, this kind of gave me an idea about the Gold Monument. But then I was also thinking about as to where, why is it that this right here, the live design work looks just a little bit different. But yeah, it looks just a little bit. You have right here for the email right there for the language, and then you have right here for higher education for your department, for your United States Treasury. So this right here would be visible, for the live view right here, but it's just not visible for the design view. So at the time, that I guess it goes by research about understanding about the Dreamweaver process, but still, that if anybody warns us toward it, really, it seems like it's all buzzed toward it. Yeah, you can't change the channel yet because you still got more work to do, or if it's all buzzed toward that, yeah, for how well your work that comes in great progress and to where that people want to see more examples. So if anybody were to say is toward it, you're working on something and then they see right here is to where they see this picture right here of me right here, and then they go back and say, it's like, yeah, look at the design right here. You say, can you tell me what this is about? Because we're trying to understand here about what you're trying to, we're trying to understand what you're trying to say here. We're getting two different pictures right here, two different pages, and for some of your HTML work, and somebody say that really that it's kind of a long story, to be honest with you. If anybody wants to do it, how do we explain? Yeah, how do we explain? How do we explain about our long story? How do we explain about our long story based on anything that we do? And sometimes that the way people that may say it, the way some people may express it, is to where that, really, please, that's none of your business, or please, I just, it's a situation that really just don't need to be in. And I know, like what I mentioned before, is to where what do we call jobs that will be caused toward it only maybe some people that more likely that do have these jobs, and I keep thinking is to where any job that you think is to where that, yeah, that anything that that which called comes to that moment to where it really that comes to that situation to where it becomes pretty serious, and those people who do want to help out with anything that goes on with the job, especially, and at the time you weren't, or then why do you want to go ahead and volunteer now, and why all of a sudden do you become curious and knowing about anything about what's related to the job in the first place, such as for the gold monument 10, talking about for North Rica, and anything about the job especially. So if anybody wants us to her that anything about the gold monument 20, that ever since you were a kid, that you want to make your work useful, and anything that comes to your mind especially. But just think about it, to where if this was right here was a job right here, and people that may say is toward it that by the time they understand about this job, and then they want to go in and volunteer and help out, and sometimes some of us that may say that if the job that comes in situation to where, please don't volunteer to help out, because really it's another situation. It's another situation that just does not need to get out of hand or so. And I know sometimes if anybody were to say just like that, what we call it whenever mistakes that happen, that what we call is to where that they were mistakes from before then, but then they basically that it's like that you thought it was a mistake, but it really wasn't. It was like what you call is to where a beginning and understanding. A beginning of an understanding, and I can go and write that down too. A beginning of an understanding. So this right here will be like, so you go ahead and write that. See here, I'll go ahead and, go ahead. Where do I want to go ahead and put that right there? Let's see here, okay. The beginning of time, beginning of the understanding. So really, what does that basically mean? A beginning of an understanding, to where we thought we thought this this action work was a mistake, but until maybe if it was because but until someone else was introduced to the work. So whenever somebody else was introduced to the work, that's whenever that they become curious. So if anybody say that that any of your actions, if we thought that maybe that's something that was going on to where you thought it was a big mistake, or if it was a small error, but then later on it becomes to where it becomes useful. Well, what do we call that? What do we call that whenever we think it's a mistake, but then they say that, whoa, actually, you gave us another idea, or wait a minute, actually, no, you're right. I'm like that's you just hang on. So if anybody warns us to her that anything about what's called between good idea and bad idea, what do we call that to where that's something that we thought was a mistake that becomes useful later on? And I know that I guess if we want to call them scrap ants, and I know that usually that there's like anything, art or any projects that didn't go very well. So I guess if you want to call them scrap, I guess if some people say that that's what they're called. They are called scrap. But anything about for like I guess if you want to call them scrap, but still that for anything about useful. But anyway, what you got right there is for professional license right there, for my birthday, for July 18th of 2018 right there, for the near future right there. But they have right there, you have right here is the birthday cake right here, and then right here the Statue of Liberty. I also think about if I want to go ahead and use the horse also, maybe use anything else, maybe the airplanes and maybe the horse, but I'm like, really, I can tell anybody here that, gold monument, gold monument seems like can go on, but still that really that I also get busy too with what I gotta do. But just showing right here for the gold monument 20, anything about from Manny Make 25 here is that anything from based on his work as a designer for jobs. Right here is for what the birthday cake tastes like, especially. So if anybody warns us toward it, that anything that you learned from based on Matt's activity right here, and for anything about what he developed, any progress in activity, but and his vote for projects. But really, that well, let's think about this. If I say any activity books that you may have gotten back whenever you were young, especially for postpaid, that think about as to where anything that useful that you think that will be able to come to your idea, to the mind, for the programs. But you have right here, like, yeah, activity one, and then so this right here, was supposed to be like just an idea. But then if I could spend about maybe 5 more hours on it, and if anybody wanted toward it, yeah, just just to be able to gain some experience, or as a professional, as to where you're just gonna go ahead and just kind of study it. You study, review the program, and like anything that you see right here on the program, and just to be able to figure out the keys pretty simply, and simple keys, and I'm sure anybody will likely warrant toward it. By the time you get it figured out, and it seems like toward it, yeah, that study, review, and then a repeat or something like that. But on your hand, that really for being like for the Gold Monument 20, for being a designer, a professional designer with a license, it seems like to where that other people that know your work just a little bit better, that sometimes you're warned toward it. You start out as part-time, but then you just really want to know as to where who's willing to promote you as like for the future designer. And anybody going to warrant toward, is it going to happen on your birthday, or is it going to happen any sooner? But let's just see. We'll see about what happens. By the year 2000. By spring of 2017. And if anybody warns us toward it, yeah, anything that you want to write, like for getting writing practice and typing practice, is like with language skills, you come up with an idea right here of agendas right here for anything about it's like for brainstorming ideas, calculation, development, and progress, as well as for projects. So puzzle pieces especially, but anyway, but mathematical, and then this another activity, another thing I want to mention too is about calculations. So I know that this is an idea, of course. So if anybody wants to, or if I go any further with this, and maybe anything else that comes up that be able to talk about, but if anything, maybe have that post that maybe on screencast. But anyway, or portfolios, but I have right here for 44 times 4 for 1,740, and you have right here for 44, minus 4 for negative 40, and you have right here for 44 plus 4, 540. So these digits right here, which I did not use a calculator, of course, so if anybody warrants us toward it, that if these are about even the closest answer, so. But still, that just seems like it's kind of like what you call between a gotcha or test. We're testing you about how much you know about if like we weren't, or yeah, anything that you're going to be managing online. That they have like a calculator that you try to calculate the estimated amounts for what's paid for, what's still owed, and you're like weren't, or really, is it true in the matter as to where that maybe the amount that you owe would be less from what that's already paid already. I know, like with anybody, they say that for the gold monument, they would probably say is to where anything about multiplication, that anything about the amount of money that you want to make, that you plan to make, set a goal for, that you want to make in the near future, if it's going to be between 1,740. So let's just say if this was on average was the gross amount that you could be making on what you call on a weekly basis, like every 2 weeks or so, that you could be making about $1,740, and then on average about maybe 40, working about maybe 40 hours a week, or maybe on a salary, it would be calculated on a W-2. It would be like 40, but this right here would be like negative 40. So if anybody say that, yeah, if you were to make less during a certain period of times of the year, but really, like I mentioned before, is toward it about on a on a tax form that they say calculate from the previous year. So if I say that from that time recorded, and then for the next years for anything that needs to be updated especially. So if anybody warrants us toward that, yeah, that you see a change, but then you get real busy of you say you save it for a car or something, but then sometimes whenever tax time comes around, it's like, oh yeah, that money has already been spent a long time ago. I can, how long ago? Oh, 6 months ago. But it's like, well, we're calculating about a year ago. We're calculating this, a year ago. But still, if anybody wants this, Tor, what do you think that your tax rates are going to be looking at by the year 2018? And you're like, I have no clue, but how am I supposed to know that information? But anyway, but really, just to kind of develop our ideas. And anybody say, yeah, I have not always been what you call the math expert and a genius, but just to kind of get some ideas. And if anybody say, just to try and make yourself useful, especially. But have it there. Yeah, for activity one, and then they have right here for image, and then the float right here. For pixels, and as well as for measurements, and then you have right here for jobs, for Matthew Sean McGuire, you say for the new laptop especially. So if anybody say, yep, thanks for watching everyone, for Gold Monument 20 and understanding about the designer of a work and knowing about for anything that shows great progress and anything that keeps us busy for the next 5, up to 50 years or so years, and warrant toward it, yeah, that, the gold money is money, also known as like for, if you want to look at you for like buy master's degree. But anyway, but they have a talk about whenever you're reading job articles and just to kind of get some ideas about anything that work for. But another thing I want to mention too is to where this was right here was supposed to be like it's like a link, a link if anybody wants this to check out more Matthew's work, and then this right here will be an example right here of a link. So if anybody wants this tour, that all this stuff right here that may be hard to remember, but just try to think of one thing that maybe you can remember is I have right here is with me right here, and then for questions, and then this right here was supposed to be like a code name right here for a link to go visit, for portfolio for 0718 for 2018 right here. So that right there would be it's like for say for agenda. But anyway, thanks for watching everyone. Gold Monument 20 here, and have a great day.